Hi, folks. This is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, this is kind of odd because in the fall like this time of the year, most people are thinking of other things, and it's something for me to be able to tell you that this is one of the greatest times of the year to go fishing. And I've recently been talking with my friend Dave Swanson on Cayuga Lake, and he tries to fish whenever he can. He's been out perch fishing, and I thought some of the things that he told me would be of interest to all of you. It doesn't matter where you're fishing. Dave has been catching perch and not using the minnows that he normally has used. He's using 2-inch plastic minnows that he makes. And I asked him how come he was using this. He said, well, he didn't have minnows the other day, and he went out and he thought he'd try for perch. And he rigs these on 2 hooks on his line, and we talked about color and presentation. Let me first get into his presentation because this is pretty unique. He's using light line. Actually, the line he uses is a Berkeley Sensation is what it's called, and it's a light, I assume it's a monofilament. It's 6-pound test, and this is necessary to use these little lures and to use the light weight that he uses to cast them. And he's either casting them out. I says, how deep of water are you catching these fish in? And he says, well, basically, it's been in 21 feet. But he'll cast these 2 plastic minnow baits out and as far as he can. And then once it hits bottom, he starts to lift his rod and basically drag it along. But there's more to this part of the story than I would think. You know, normally you'd cast out an artificial and reel it in. And that's the way we fish most of our swim baits or spinners or whatever. But he casts these out, they hit the bottom, and then he starts raising his rod up. And he does this, and it probably covers maybe 8 feet, the motion that he does this. And he says this is critical because when these perch hit, it's just a little tick that you feel. And he can feel it much better with just not having his other hand on the reel or doing anything, but just his one hand raising it up. And when you feel the tick is when you strike back. And he says a lot of people, he says a lot of new fishermen, he says, I don't think would be able to feel this tick. And that is a strike. And he says the lighter the tick feels, a lot of times it's a bigger perch. But he does this technique. And then he also, if the perch are right underneath and you're not casting out to them, he lets it go right to the bottom and then will raise it up slowly, like I said, with one hand, maybe 8 feet at a time. And he said it's been amazing, the fish that he's caught. And he said the minnow that he used yesterday was a brown with black flecks, worked really well. He said black also worked. He said those fish wouldn't even look at pink. You know, I've spent so much time telling you about pink being this magic color. Well, nothing is magic all the time. He said he also did well using yellow, but the black or the brown with the black flecks seemed to work the best. I thought this was amazing. I said, Dave, how big does a perch have to be a keeper perch to you? He says, well, I don't like to keep anything under 10 inches. He said, and I found this so interesting, this technique that he's using, and he's really having a blast catching perch right now. He's been catching good numbers of them. He says for every 10 he catches, only probably 1 are over 10 inches long. But this is the size that he keeps. And it's something that I think so many of us, you know, we get locked into a certain technique or a certain bait, but it just shows that all these fish can be fooled with artificials. And he really feels strongly that the whole, the line, the rod, the weight that you use is so critical to being able to catch these fish and to be able to feel them when they strike. You know, this is something that I've always talked about, the fact that braid really enables a person to feel those strikes better because it transmits the message so much better than does monofilament. And I asked Dave if he'd used fluorocarbon, and he hasn't. But he's going to try now, rigging one rod with braid and the other with this monofilament and see which one he actually can feel the strikes better. But it's all about feel. Feel is so important in all the fishing we talk about. And usually when you talk about finesse fishing, you're talking about using proper tackle that will convey, that will transmit this signal, which is what it is. When that fish first comes up and puts that bait in its mouth, there's a sensation, and you can feel that as a tick on the line. Dave also says that the line he's using is orange, and it helps with visibility. He says it doesn't seem to affect the perch in any way. They don't seem to be afraid of it. But this is something you can take this same method any place that you are right now and are thinking of going out perch fishing. It's going to work no matter where you go. So hopefully you can enjoy this kind of pan fishing this time of the year, because it really is super good this time of year. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.